Right, there we go. I hope you can all hear me now. If you can hear me, just drop a comment in the comments box, please. It's been a while since I've done one of these live streams. Obviously, I've had a lot of difficulties trying to get my channel back online for a start. So there's a few things I want to talk about tonight, and we'll get onto the toy drive. We'll get on to how much money has been raised, which, quite frankly, is remarkable. I want to talk a little bit first about something that's just happening now, and I hope it does interest people, about the South Korea situation. Even unbelievable that the president there has declared martial law tonight, and people are in the streets rioting. People are wanting this guy out for obvious reasons. The military went in to the oh God, I've done it again. The military went into the parliamentary building, and then they've now been forced to withdraw because they say the president has declared martial law, and therefore that's okay, which I would say it is not. Now, people are obviously annoyed and trying to storm the parliamentary building, but at the same time, they're being told they're not allowed anywhere near it for obvious reasons. And to be honest with you, it's just one big chaotic mess. It's very hard to know what's actually going on. The budget didn't pass, and the president, who's got say over everybody, is now trying to tell everyone that they've got to go home and do as he says, and no one's going home and doing as he says, which is pretty remarkable. It's quite a situation. Thank God we don't have it. Thank God we don't have it in this country at the moment. Although, let's face it, the way things are going, to be quite honest with you, anything is possible. Now, I'm going to get onto the toy drive first and just go through. In fact, I'll tell you how these live streams work first. So the live streams with me have always been pretty much the same. You all send your comments in and your questions in. And after I finish rabbiting, we'll then go through your comments and questions and answer anything that you might ask. I'll do my best to answer anything you might ask. And we'll see how far we go for. Usually it's an hour. Sometimes it can go a bit longer. Sometimes it can go a bit shorter. It just depends who's interacting. So we'll see how far we get. I did say with this toy drive, I wanted to be as transparent as I possibly could. And that means posting the receipts for everything that people have sent. That means showing donations. That means showing you the toys that I purchased from the shop, and like I said, the receipts, and showing that they've been delivered to the place where I said they would be, which of course is going to be the community offices at Preston North End Football Club, and they are then distributed from there to families that need them, and to make sure that children have got something to open on Christmas Day. And the generosity that you've all shown, to be quite honest with you, has been absolutely unbelievable. I set a £200 target. I put the first 100 in and then asked if people would be good enough to put 50p or a quid in, and let's just see how far we get. Because of your generosity, we went past the £200 target in 10 minutes. By 15 minutes, it was up to £475. Since then, people have kept donating, and now, if I can show you here, I hope you can see this. It's at a staggering £2,269, which is remarkable. I can't believe the generosity shown by people. And I wanted to show you this screen because I want you to see that I'm not taking any money, any donations. 100% of what you donate will go to children who need it this Christmas. So as you can see, the fees, which is the £97 5p bit, has been taken by GoFundMe. I didn't know that was a thing, actually. However, I suppose they've got to make their money somewhere. So that it makes sense they're going to take a cut, I suppose. But as I put the first 100 in, we'll call that £97 mine. And then the rest has all been donated by yourselves. So £2,152.78p, which will all be used to buy toys for children, and then shown to you all once I've purchased them. So what we're going to do now is stop the donations, because I've got to think logistics as well. To be quite honest with you, I've got to think how the hell I'm going to buy over £2,000 worth of toys, enough to make sure that enough children can actually have a toy this Christmas, and obviously fit it in a car or whatever. So it's going to be pretty difficult, but we'll do it. And like I said, I'll make sure it's all photographed. And I do want to go through the people, if you bear with me, who donated. There was a lot of anonymous people as well, by the way. But I just want to say thank you to Valerie Eaton, Stephen Bruce, Sasha Scott, Gary Bowers, Patsy Edmonston, Kevin Tedder, Neil Strong, Brian Chisholm, Louise North, Sandra Hussein, Ronald Lucraft, Linda Atwell, Linda Alsop, Pete Hoare, Jeremy Norman, Leslie Donnelly, Steve Lewis, Michael Bashford, Terry Jackson, Phil Spencer, Robert Barnes, Chris Springle, John Lutty, KV Nash, Anne Bagnetboard, sorry, I pronounced that wrong, Andrew Geddes, Roger Lidster, James Neild, Anthony McDonald, Sam Perry, Anne Gray, Amanda Jones, N.A. Woods, Paul Crowley, Leslie Fletcher, Patricia Smith, Robert Tobman, Marie Shawhunt, Jordan Broadbent, Mark Darcy, Maria Darcy, Darren Baxter, Michelle Cooper, Nick Green, Christine Holden, Sharon Williams, David Allen, Nadia Hitchin, Richard Charlesworth, Roger Harold, Kevin Ricketts, Mark Laughlin, Michael Brown, Neil Watson, Tony Stewart, PJ Turner, Alfred Farrington. It's unbelievable how many people have donated. David Wines, Janet Stanlin, David Dudridge, Stuart Laminen, Nicola Lloyd, Kim Waters, Valerie McAvely, George Bowden, Stephen Wilson, Kaylee Wilson, Robert Bialek, James Caslake, Charlotte Murdoch, Conrad Davies, Denise O'Neill, Kane Ross, Zila Lowe, and Teresa Rutherford. Kane Ross, by the way, unbelievable donation of £200. I couldn't believe that. From one person. As I said, I didn't ask for that much money, but that is a pretty remarkable donation. And of course, Phil Spencer as well, I'd like to say, donated £100 in one go, which is pretty remarkable stuff. To say it's just a little donation, just something I thought of really at the spur of the moment. I think it was after watching an advert and I felt sorry for children who don't have anything. So I thought we'd see what we can do. And because of your unbelievable generosity, we've now managed to get as far as that. So like I said, tonight, shutting the donations. I can't possibly get any more into a car. So I'll make sure they are all bought and delivered. Also, you may have seen tonight that Wes Streeting has brought out his ridiculous healthy eating thing for high sugar foods, what they call. Now, I don't think it is high sugar foods. And if you look at the list on the government website, it goes through something like 8 categories of food. It's got over 5,700 words just to tell companies not to advertise junk food before 9 o'clock, making them the same as swearing, for example, after the watershed, which is absolutely ridiculous to my mind. I can't believe these idiots are wasting time on this. When the NHS is in crisis, Streeting has got time to go through crap like this. This list of foods actually includes things like chewing gum. Yes, chewing gum. It also includes porridge oats. I eat quite a few of those porridge pots, whether they're sweetened or not. But those porridge pots apparently now are bad for you as well. Guess what else is included? Muesli. Something that's actually good for you. Muesli is included in the government's junk food. On top of that, granola. Granola. It's basically wheat, fruit, and nuts. Granola is now bad for you as well, according to the government. And I'm supposed to listen to fat gits like David Lammy tell me that I should be eating healthily. Now, I know it's not his job. I know it's Wes Streeting's job. But if I've got someone telling me what I should be doing, then I think they should. I think the people in the government who are going to try and bring this rubbish in and vote for it should actually be the ones who live by their own mottos, what they're trying to tell us to do. But of course, they don't, do they? You've got to do it, and they don't. And what are they going to do next? I don't know. Probably bring in some sort of tax on all these foods. You watch. That'll be the next thing now. We're going to tax them to high heaven to try and price people out of them. The simple fact is it's down to the parents, this. If you're feeding your child shit every morning, then what do you expect? They're going to get fat, aren't they? If you don't go out and do any exercise, of course, you're going to get fat, aren't you? It's perfectly simple, and it should be down to the parents. But no, instead, we're going to punish the entire population. And if you look at the list of foods, of course, it includes chocolate bars and all sorts. So now you can't advertise anything. So the advertisements that keep TV channels going, many of them which ironically support the Labour Party, like ITV and Sky, etc., will now not be able to take advertisements. Starmer's also told Donald Trump that he's not going to pick America over the EU. Now, it's not as bad as it sounds, actually, because this is something that Britain has done for a long time. We've never really chosen a favourite between the EU and America. We've always just kind of sat on the fence and had the best of both worlds, dealt with them both when it comes to trade, etc., which is fine. The problem is, of course, Starmer's delivery. He's making it sound like he's threatening Donald Trump. Like, we're not going to do this, we're going to pick the EU and all that stuff, which is just ridiculous, isn't it? If Starmer had any brains about him, he would have said, we're not getting involved in any politics in the EU, we're not getting involved in any politics in America, we just want to do trade and be partners with all of you. No problem with that. But of course, Starmer and his bunch of morons that work for him simply do not have the brains to deliver something like that. Something so simple, which is pretty terrifying when you think that these people are actually running the country. Another big defection tonight as well to Reform UK, you may have seen, Tim Montgomery, who is quite a big hitter in the Tory party. He started, Conservative Home. He edits Conservative Home. He was an advisor to Boris Johnson. And now he's decided to defect to Reform UK and will no doubt be either an advisor or maybe even a parliamentary candidate going forward. Reform really are at the minute on the rise, massively on the rise. And people should be scared of them. People like Labour, people like the Tories. The two-party system, for the first time in my lifetime, and, well, everyone's lifetime, looks like it is going to be broken. But that means, of course, people have to stay strong. People have to not think, oh, my God, I'm so scared of voting Labour in case I get a Tory MP or vice versa. For one election, the next election, 2029, possibly sooner, who knows, you've got to stick to your principles this time and vote for Reform. Just this once. Just give them a shot. They're not perfect. I'm not saying they are. But by God, they are the only hope we've got of breaking this two-party system. The Lib Dems aren't going to do it because they've got a moron who just wants to go down water slides all the time. The Greens aren't going to do it because nobody cares what they think. Reform are the only hope we have. Something else that happened today in the Commons, which not many people are reporting on, surprise, surprise, the mainstream media won't touch it, is that Rachel Reeves, who said at the CBI conference last week, no more tax rises. Then her deputy came out and said that there would have to be tax rises. Then Starmer was asked at PMQs, will you confirm the Chancellor's pledge that there will be no more tax rises on people? He wouldn't do so. And today, Rachel Reeves in the House of Commons was asked by a Tory MP, will there be any more tax rises? She refused to answer. She once again blurted out the 22 billion black hole rubbish that nobody believes anymore. And I'm afraid she looked a complete and utter idiot. Let's get to what's most important, which is your comments. Great what you're doing. Thank you very much. I assume you mean the toy drive. Lee Williams, martial law was just another lockdown control tool. Yeah, well, it wouldn't surprise you, would it? The excuse given by the president of South Korea first was that he was protecting them from the communists from North Korea. Now, as far as I'm aware, there's no fighting going on the Korean border. Troops on that border, if you see, stand literally feet apart from each other. And if they wanted to shoot at each other, that wouldn't be difficult. They're literally in eyes sight of each other. So that wouldn't be difficult at all. So he's accusing the opposition in the party of siding with North Korea and wanting to bring the North Koreans into South Korean politics. Personally, I think it's an excuse. It's actually the kind of crap you could imagine our government's coming out with, trying to scare people. Julie, all sorts. Thank you very much. It is a fantastic amount. You're absolutely right. Ash, can you put a link in? I will put a link in, but honestly, just keep it to if you're going to donate anything, just keep it to a couple of quid. There's so much money there now that I'm going to have to go out and buy this stuff anyway. And like I said, fit it all in the car and stuff. That maybe it's just a bit easier if people just stop donating. Like I said, I was going to keep it running. I've just posted the link for you now. I was going to keep it running until the 10th of December. Last day for donations at Preston North End are the 17th of December. So that's how long I was going to keep it going for. But it's simply not worth it because there's going to be too much money. I didn't expect people to be so generous, which is just incredible. Charity shops, Ash, double whammy. You mean buy the toys or whatever from a charity shop? Actually, you could do. They do take used toys as long as they're in good condition. So I could actually look at doing that. Kim says, Kim. Hi, Kim. Justin, hi, press. Hello, good evening. Super sticker from Lord Jim Dandy. Thank you very much. Very generous of you. Lee says, I totally ignore everything this government says. To be honest with you, I think everybody does now. And I made another wrong prediction, of course. I said that Rachel Reeves wouldn't get to December. She has got to December just. Is she going to last well into the new year? I very much doubt it. She's got absolutely no credibility whatsoever. And she's got actually intelligent people like Rupert Lowe attacking her in the House of Commons who know more about business and economics than she ever will. And she is not an economist. She might have a degree in economics. I'm not saying she hasn't. But that does not make you an economist. She made herself out to be something like the head of the Bank of England. I know she didn't actually say that, but you know what I mean. And she's not. She's completely unqualified for the bloody job that she is in. And the sooner she's gone, the better. But Starmer will cling on now until the May local elections, and we'll see how far he gets. Justin, ridiculous. Yeah. Oh, they're just saying hello to each other. You really have it in for the Dalek of Downing Street. I do really have it in for the Dalek of Downing Street because he lied to the entire public. Now, I know politicians lie in their manifestos. That shouldn't come as a shock to anybody. But to draw up a manifesto which was complete and utter rubbish, and then roll back on everything you said as soon as you got into power, that takes lying to a new level. At least some people had, like Boris had Brexit, for example. All right, it's not perfect, but he did what he said he was going to do. And the fact also is that Starmer annoys me more than most politicians because he got there by default. He didn't get there because he's any good. He got there because the Tories were so damn hopeless. Had the Tories not booted Boris out, I believe Boris would have gone on to win that general election still. Despite Partygate and that, Boris would have gone on to win that election. He would have beaten Starmer out of sight. I think I would have had a good job at beating Starmer out of sight. All it takes is a little bit of charisma and a little bit of vision and a bit of personality, something that Starmer lacks. He lacks any of those characteristics. And the Tories would have won had they kept, even Liz Truss, had she been given the chance to try and turn the economy around, she would have beaten Starmer as well. But the problem is with Liz Truss, she was made to look stupid. The markets crashed on her and she went too quick, too fast. But Starmer is just an out-and-out liar. He pretends to believe in one thing, then believes in another. In other words, he has no beliefs. I don't even like Jeremy Corbyn, but let's face it, he stood right behind Corbyn, saying I want him as Prime Minister and all this stuff. And then at the very, very first opportunity to stab Corbyn in the back, he does it and takes his job. That's the sort of person Starmer is. And I said in the run-up to the election, this guy would sell his own mother to get into number 10 Downing Street. And so it's been proved. That's exactly what he would do. And he will now sell this country down the river and sell any of its people down the drain for his dream of rejoining the EU and to try and puff up his own legacy, such as it will be. And it won't be much of them. It won't be much of one, sorry. Lee Williams, Trump will crucify them. Elon and Trump Jr. got it in for Starmer. Trump gunning for Lammy. Oh, definitely. As soon as Trump gets in, I know he's being diplomatic now. He has to be. But as soon as he gets in on January the 6th, it wouldn't surprise me one little bit if Trump turns around and says that I'm not working with Lammy, you'll have to get rid of him. Just you wait. And Starmer is going to have to go cap in hand to Nigel Farage and say, can you help us out with the Americans? It is no coincidence whatsoever that Starmer crossed the floor the other day in the House of Commons and walked over to Farage and started talking to him. They couldn't be any more ideologically apart. And all of a sudden, he wants to have a conversation with Nigel Farage. Come on. He knows full well that he's going to have to use Farage to speak to Trump. As I said in the video, Farage, though, has got to be very gracious about this. And he's got to say, yes, for the good of the country, I'll do it. But then he's got to make it clear to the public that Reform UK are the ones pulling the strings, not the Labour Party. Isn't Wes Streeting getting a little podgy? He is. Before the election, I actually went to a political event in Fleetwood, which is like North Fylde Coast. And I didn't want to go. It was actually a BBC event, Radio 4 event. But I went because my friend got a couple of tickets and we went along. Wes Streeting was there. Tommy Shepherd from the SNP was there. Who else was there? David Davis from the Conservatives. And there was a Green there as well. And a Lib Dem. No, it was a Lib Dem, sorry. I can't think of her name now. I think she's deputy leader of the Lib Dems. And I was actually quite surprised. Wes Streeting is a pretty podgy lad, actually, when it comes to it. When you see him on maybe the cameras take a couple of pounds off for him or something, but he actually is. Yeah. And as I'm somebody who goes to the gym pretty much every day, I think Wes Streeting should be the one eating less granola, not me. Daleks don't have brains, Miss Britt. They certainly don't. And Starmer certainly doesn't have any brains. There was a Dalek spotted outside Downing Street today. That turning the lights on, by the way, you'll have to go on the internet and watch the video. Oh, my God. In fact, go to my YouTube channel. I've put a video on there today. I think it was 5 o'clock. Unbelievable how Starmer can be so devoid of personality. And as I said in the video, it's not really any of our business. But I tell you what, if he and his wife are in a committed relationship and are still together, I will be astounded. Because she was stood there and she did not want to be stood there. You should see her face. You see her body language. They're not holding hands. They're not even making eye contact with each other. These two, just my opinion, but these two are not a couple. Laboratory rats from the same. That's quite a good way of describing them. I'm looking forward to the next by-election. Yeah, so am I. And, well, if it's all gone very quiet at the minute about that guy in Runcorn, hasn't it? The one who smacked one of his constituents. But that should be the next by-election. That should in Runcorn. So we should hopefully see that coming up very soon. And I hope that Reform UK take that, because in the general election, Reform UK actually came second in Runcorn. So there's a damn good chance that they could take them. Carl Ambler, free Tommy Robinson. I agree. It's no great secret that I've never been a big fan of Tommy Robinson, and I get a lot of stick for saying that for some reason. It's just my opinion. But I actually agree. Yeah, he should be freed. He shouldn't be in prison. I don't see why he's in prison. After all, he wasn't even the one that showed his documentary the first time round. It was somebody else that showed it in America. And all of a sudden, Tommy Robinson's in prison. You've got to actually admire the guy a bit, whether you like him or not. He doesn't shy away, does he? Even if he knows that he's going to be locked up for what he believes in, he still comes back to the country, comes back to the UK, knowing full well he's going to be arrested and probably imprisoned. I actually said at the time, I think he had quite a touch in court, and some of the comments made by the judge made me think maybe actually this guy's a little bit sympathetic towards the cause of Tommy Robinson and the plight of Tommy Robinson, given the way that he's treated by the establishment, which is disgusting, of course. They just want to shut him up, lock him up, and throw away the key. But the judge giving him just 18 months, up for parole in 9, actually, it was a pretty good result for him, I think. What have we got here? Quite a long comment from Rob W. Will you have a look at Vanguard and BlackRock and how many things they own, including our government and soon the nation? I will have a look. I haven't actually looked at BlackRock and the WEF and that for quite a while because they've gone pretty quiet, haven't they? But I'm sure they're up to no good behind the scenes. So I will take a look at that. I did see something actually the other day, an image somewhere online, and it showed how many. It had like BlackRock in the middle, and then like a spider diagram, whatever you call it. And it had all these different companies that are associated with BlackRock. And it was actually pretty terrifying. There is a hell of a lot of organizations out there that are associated with BlackRock, and it's pretty frightening. Kaz says, internal coup. I don't know what you mean. Do you mean here, or do you mean the Korea situation? Psychology, isn't it wonderful? Yeah, yeah, it is. And that's exactly what they use. Hire a van. I don't want to use other people's money to hire a van, but I do actually have a mate who's got a courier company, so I might ask him if I can borrow a van for the toys. Yeah, that'd be a good idea, actually, to be fair. So we'll see what I'll see what I can do. Don't rest assured, I will get it sorted. Don't even worry about it. Risk that Reform, Conservatives, and UKIP, etc., will split the centre-right vote. Could keep Labour in power for another 5 years. Yes, it is a risk. However, the only thing UKIP have got going for them at the moment is Nick Tanconi, who is actually somebody that I kind of respect, actually. I quite like him. I've never voted UKIP in my life. I know many people who did the first time round when Farage had them and they did really well and got the 4 million votes, etc., and had the 2 MPs. But Nick Tanconi is actually very good for UKIP. He gets out there into the public and he's not bothered about walking into crowds of violent lefties, and he just stands over a megaphone and starts shouting at them, which actually is pretty good. And, you can follow somebody like that. If they've got a positive message to bring or a message that you agree with, this is a guy you can follow. And it wouldn't surprise me if UKIP did okay, especially in council by-elections for a little bit. Let's see what happens. Because remember, back in the day, they had, was it Thanet Council? I think they got quite a few councillors in the Midlands. They got quite a few in the northwest, like Burnley, Blackburn Way, etc. I think they got some councillors up there. So we'll see what happens. But it's certainly a big journey back for UKIP. Let's put it that way. It's going to take a lot of doing to get them where they were. The Conservatives, however, are a different matter. At the moment, the betting odds on Kemi Badenoch being the Prime Minister after the next election are 2-1. That's incredibly short. And to be honest with you, I don't think there's a hope in hell that she's going to be the Prime Minister. She was my favourite candidate. Out of Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch, at least she's always been pretty consistent on her messaging, apart from immigration. But Jenrick has always sat in government after government, really going along with whatever message, whatever Prime Minister wanted to bring forward, and he never had any principles of his own. And then all of a sudden, he turns into Nigel Farage on steroids. And to be honest with you, I had no faith in Jenrick doing the right thing. Although he did say he was going to leave the ECHR, but how many have said that before? You're absolutely right, though. The trick for people is to not split the vote. Even if you've got to look at your seat and see who's most likely to win in your seat that isn't Labour, then fine, vote for them. Even if you're not a Tory voter, I'd like to see Labour and Tories wiped out. I'd like to see the Lib Dems wiped out so we can actually have some fresh MPs in there. That's the problem with these legacy parties. They've got too many people who've been sat in there for far too long, with the exception of Lib Dems, because they went down to nothing, then got 72 MPs all of a sudden with less votes than Reform UK. But Reform have got the best MPs in there at the moment. You look at Rupert Lowe, you look at Richard Tice, who's gaff prone, but he knows what he's talking about, and Nigel Farage know exactly what they're talking about. They're businessmen. They've dealt, like in Nigel Farage's case, he was a stockbroker. They've run businesses. They could run this economy far better than what the Tories or Labour have for quite a long time, especially Rupert Lowe, by the way. I think he's fantastic. And Lee Anderson is used for the heavy lifting. Have you noticed whenever there's something controversial to say, it's Lee Anderson, the gobshite, that has to come out and say it and say something outrageous. But people don't mind because Lee Anderson, unlike many of the politicians you look at inside the House of Commons, Lee Anderson is a real guy. He's a real person. Many people, many of you watching this and many others who will watch it, can relate to Lee Anderson because he's been a single parent. He's brought his children up. He's had next to nothing. He's had to sell his car in the past because he couldn't afford to run his home. He's worked down the pits, etc. He's a real bloke, a real dad, and a real family man. And people should respect that. Well done, by the way. Glad to see you're doing things We need more like you. Merry Christmas to all. Yeah, Merry Christmas to you as well, Rob. Yeah, it is very good. Thank you very much. What are your thoughts when Boris Johnson compared himself to Winston? Yeah, no, that was a stupid thing to say, wasn't it? I don't know why Boris said that. Honestly, God, I think Boris is on a bit of a mission at the moment. I think he's on manoeuvres, Boris, and he sees a way back for himself into Parliament. And it wouldn't surprise me, by the way. He's one of these people, Boris. He's got more than 9 lives. He's got an infinite amount of lives. And he's such a great campaigner. Again, whether you like him or not, he's such a great campaigner that he could, just let me take a sip of my drink. He could definitely find a seat and stand in that seat and win it again. Because if he knocks on your door with this positive message again, you could imagine people voting for him. Now, there's been talk of, a Farage Johnson ticket to run together. Never going to happen. They're 2 big egos, Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage. And they've never been members of a club where they weren't the leaders, especially Farage, by the way. He won't have anybody else in that party that can possibly challenge him for the leadership. That's not necessarily a bad thing. He just knows what direction he wants the party to go in, which is probably why Ben Habib has been booted out. Well, not booted out. He's quit. Probably, a mutual decision. I'll just leave. But Ben Habib was one of the biggest assets in Reform UK, and it's a massive, massive mistake, in my opinion, to get rid of Ben. He's a fantastic speaker. I'd love to actually have a conversation with him on here one day. So I'll see what I can do. But he's a massive, massive loss to Reform UK, in my opinion. And Farage was saying it was a good day when he left. I'm not so sure. But he had too many opinions, and Farage didn't like that. I think that's what it came down to. Agree with Rob. More digging needs to be done on BlackRock, Vanguard, and WF. Nothing being reported on those vile organisations controlling countries when not elected. Yeah, you're right. There's only so much digging you can do on these people. They're cleverer than you think. But I promise I'll do more of it. Keir Starlick. Very good. Very good, Miss Britt. Make politicals manifestos legally binding. You see, it's not a bad suggestion, Lee. And you can't do it, though. The problem is you can't do it. What you could do is take certain policies and make them legally binding. But then they just pick the crappiest ones, the easiest low-hanging fruit, and make those the legally binding ones. The problem is that things change. Who was it who said events, dear boy, events? I can't remember his name now. But that's the problem, really. If something big happens that you can't legislate for example, had Boris Johnson's manifesto been legally binding, then COVID hits, the guy's in a world of trouble, isn't he? Now, I'm not going to go into the virus and how it was handled and all that stuff. That's just one of those things. But imagine having that manifesto as legally binding after you've had to deal with that. Then you've got to deal with Putin going into Ukraine. It's not exactly a great situation. And how you'd fulfill your manifesto obligations with those events going on, I don't know. It's a very, very difficult thing to do. Maybe there's a way to correct the system. Like, I'd like to see a system. I've said this before. I'd like to see a system where we change the civil service regularly, like in America. So if you've got a Tory government that comes in, or a Reform UK government, or whatever it may be, they can bring their own people in to run these departments. That's what they do in America. Then you don't have a civil service that is full to the rafters with people who've been sat there for a long time, and it's a conveyor belt. They're just waiting for their turn to get the big job. They don't get it on merit. They get it because it's their turn. A bit like, yes, Prime Minister and stuff, you know what I mean? One of us and all that, one of the boys. And that's how the civil service works. Whereas in America, Republicans can bring in Republicans who are going to implement their agenda. Whereas Labour now have got a Labour left-wing biased civil service, and they're still cocking it up, which just shows how bad the place is. Whereas the Tories understandably find it difficult to get anything done because nobody in the civil service agrees with them. They wanted to go on strike over the Rwanda policy. That's how pathetic and entitled these people are in the civil service. Not all, of course, but, some. Thank you, Terry, for the £5 super chat. Very much appreciated. Lots of talk, UK troops and French, so just Brits really going into Ukraine. Can't support with this government, not true. There's talk of it, and I don't know if you've seen the video I put out today, that somebody shared a video, dangerously in my opinion, on Twitter, a page called World War III, so unsubscribe from it if you get a chance. because they're sharing a video around showing military trucks driving down a highway saying that NATO troops have just crossed into Ukraine, which is going to be a big escalation. Straight away, I got onto some people I know, and trust me now, nobody from NATO, not officially anyway, has crossed into Ukraine. Certainly no big force has crossed into Ukraine to join in the war and fight alongside the Ukrainians. I can absolutely guarantee you that now. No way would the Romanian police, as it seemed to be on that video, possibly be giving NATO troops an escort to the Romanian-Ukrainian border. It's dangerous what some people share around, and they just share footage and go, oh my God, NATO's in Ukraine. It's not true. And it's stuff like that, by the way, that causes panic. And it really is very stupid of people to come out with crap like that, but they do. Just don't follow pages like that. Honestly, I've spoken to military people. No such move has been made by NATO. I promise you. Starmer's the worst politician of the 20th century. I mean, to be fair, he's up against some pretty stiff competition, isn't he? But he's certainly one of the worst, and I would say that he's one of the biggest liars. I can put it that way. I mean, if you look at the Labour Party as was, okay, I didn't actually know it was you, Kane. Thank you for the donation, by the way. Unbelievable, £200. Thank you. You look at the Labour Party as was, when you go back to people like Bevan or you go back to people like Attlee, these people were pragmatic people. Yes, they were hardcore lefties, but they were pragmatic. For example, Attlee was very good friends with Churchill, although politically they were poles apart. Could you imagine politicians today on opposite sides of the house actually being friends with each other? No, they're not, are they? They just shout and row at each other. Although it's rumoured, actually, that Keir Starmer was very good friends with Rishi Sunak before Sunak became leader of the Conservative Party. So I don't know how true that is. But these people today don't compare. They're not fit to lace the boots of politicians that have gone before them. That's a fact. Many of them, by the way. Tories failed deliberately to let Starmer in. I have heard that before, people saying that. And you know what? I think there's something to be said for the Tories and the Labour Party doing what they can to preserve each other. So the Tories, it's perfectly feasible, by the way, what you're saying there, D. James, that the Tories could quite happily say, well, you know what, we'll sit back for 5 years. Even those ones that got voted out, like Tobias Ellwood and all the rest, well, we'll just wait 5 years and then we'll come back. I'll go to a think tank for 5 years, then I'll run for the seat and win it back. So, yeah, you could see it happening, couldn't you? Make sure they preserve the two cheeks of the same arse, the two-party system. It's definitely not beyond the realms of possibility. That's something that they could be up to. But who knows? I mean, if that is the way that things are, then we are in bigger trouble than I ever dreamed of. Evening, Justin. I call you Puesto. Keep bringing the truth, mate. Doing a great job. Thank you very much, Bal. I know you said this now a few times. I did talk about Tommy Robinson, Carl. It's like stepping back into the 70s. Well, you think it's the 70s now. I mean, obviously, I wasn't alive in the 70s. But if you think it's the 70s now, just wait till we get to next year when these policies are really starting to bite. We're already seeing retail dropping off. I was walking through Preston the other day because my vehicle had gone for an MOT. I was walking through the city centre, and you wouldn't believe, I don't go shopping much in town, by the way, you wouldn't believe how many shops now, streets just boarded up. Used to be shops, used to be vibrant. And all they're doing now, businesses, are simply shutting down. They're saying it's not worth it. The UK's biggest toy chain has announced that one of its biggest stores is shutting down. When it said biggest toy chain, I actually thought it was going to be, what do you call it, Smith's. But it turns out it wasn't. It was actually the Entertainer, it's called. I don't think I've seen one. I don't even know where the Entertainer shops are. But it turns out that they're shutting down one of the biggest stores. We're seeing thousands of jobs going from the car industry. They're trying to shut down North Sea Oil and Gas. Companies are pulling out of that. I mean, we're going to have nothing left soon. Julia, Argos doing good deals on toys at the moment. Thank you very much. I will take a look. Obviously, I want to get as much for the money as is humanly possible, so I'll be doing what I can. If Keir Starmer went to Hollywood, would we call it Star Trek? Star Trek. Could you imagine Keir Starmer being an actor? Dear God, if anybody can name a film and a character that Keir Starmer would be like, Let's have some suggestions before I go. That'd be interesting. That's it. Just commenting to each other. Fair enough. You look smart. Thank you very much. This is one of my favourite polo shirts, actually. I really like it. I'm a bit of a Fred Perry buff, if I'm honest with you. Was Starmer in the film Westworld? I honestly couldn't tell you. I've never seen the film Westworld. But who knows? Just like Cranky with her kill homes. Luckily, we've seen the very last, I think, of Nicola Sturgeon for now. I mean, Operation Branch Foam, let's face it, it's a calamity. People aren't paying attention to it. I don't think the police are paying attention to it. They're hoping that everyone's going to forget and then it all be swept under the carpet. And Sturgeon can carry on, by the way, with her limited company that she's set up to make sure she avoids all the tax rises that have been brought in by the SNP. And the same can be said for Useless Yusuf as well. Of course, it was, I can't think of his name now, the guy that I did, Neil Mackay, is it, who said he wanted Sturgeon to come back. He believed that she could win the popular vote again and be First Minister of Scotland again. Yeah, right. But like that is ever going to happen. There's something strange and worrying about Starmer. He doesn't seem human. You're absolutely right, Peter. There is something strange about Starmer. And I said this in a video that I made. Said his fundamental problem isn't that he has no principles. You could say that for a lot of politicians. His fundamental problem actually is himself. It's the fact that he's not a very likable person. He doesn't come across as a very nice guy. He's clearly got no empathy or sympathy for whatever he says, however his policies or the policies of people around him are impacting other people. And he has no understanding, literally no understanding of the real world and what normal working people go through and to put food on the table and pay their bills, mortgages and all that stuff. He's the most out of touch person I've ever seen. And if I didn't know better, I'd say he had some sort of illness. Like, I don't want to be disrespectful, you know what I mean? I'd say like he's on the spectrum or something. He's that awkward, a little bit odd. Something weird about him, isn't there? Certainly doesn't make you qualified to be Prime Minister of a country. And never in any other election would Starmer have won. It's just absolutely disgusting that our politics have reached such a state that this awkward, weird, empty suit was able to get into Downing Street. John, send the illegal immigrants to fight against the Russians. Let's see how... It's not a bad idea, is it? Let's see how many come over then. To earn your British citizenship, you've got to go over to Ukraine and do a 12-month tour, and then you can come back here if you've earned your citizenship. Let's see how you get on. But yeah, we'll see how many crossing boats then if they think they're going to be sent to the Russian front, as it were. Where's ate all the pies? Quite possibly. He might have eaten all the pies. Great blogs, and thanks for being on. Thank you, John. Much appreciated. Thunderbirds, yes, keep the faith. I did see that on Mike Graham's show this morning, and it was absolutely brilliant. They put a clip out on YouTube, and you can see him mixing Starmer with Thunderbirds. It is absolutely superb. Two-Tier's wife looks embarrassed to be seen with him. She definitely does. It is truly embarrassing to see her stood there next to him. You notice, I mean, he doesn't go out in public anyway because he just gets sworn at and booed, but she's never seen with him. She's never anywhere. The last time she was seen was, I think it's when he went to Washington and David Lammy was wearing trainers, pathetically. That's the last time she was seen by anybody. Now, I can understand it's not easy being the Prime Minister's wife. I get that, by the way. But the fact that him trying to make himself Prime Minister coincided with her being exposed in all these scandals, all the freebie scandals. She's not respected by anybody. So people now dislike her just as much as they dislike Keir Starmer, purely through association with him. Now, I don't think she probably knew Lord Ali like Starmer did, but she certainly took the freebies from him, didn't she? Which, by the way, I've made the point in the past. I think it's absolutely disgusting that a man should allow anybody to buy clothes for his wife. What sort of a man is Starmer, honestly? Actually, about standing for reform, you'd be a great candidate. I have thought about standing for reform, and I think I emailed them a while ago about it. I never got anything back. I don't know if I've gone through the wrong channels. I did look at standing in a couple of seats around me. There's actually a guy I'd love to have a go at and take his seat off him called Paul Foster. And I'd love to take that seat away from him because I can't stand the guy. And he'll lose the seat next time round anyway, but I'd like it to be me. He loses the seat too. But to be honest with you, I don't have much time either. It takes a lot of campaigning, a lot of dedication to get into Parliament. So don't rule it out, but I'm not planning to at the moment. Well done, decent amount of money. Thank you, Bridie. Yeah, it is a very nice amount of money. It's all credit to you people. Oh my, that was funny. I cried laughing for half an hour because you were funny. Okay. I'm glad you found it funny. His boyfriend Qatar was in a punch. I've got to be careful what I say about stuff like this. There's lots of rumours about his personal life, and I just don't know. Tommy is a good bloke and a true patriot. I've never met the guy. I don't know. I certainly don't buy. I did actually buy into at first all these, everyone calls him a racist and all that. I bought into that at first, and I believed the mainstream media lines, if you will, even the lines that people like Peter Cardwell still chuck out on Talk TV now. But I've never, having researched the guy, Tommy Robinson, I have never seen him say anything that's racist. I've seen him talk about religious issues and that. That does not mean he's racist because you criticize a religion. Just remember, religions are not races. They are open to scrutiny and criticism, as they should be. Lock that Starmer up, sausage fingers. Thoughts on Biden pardoning his son? Disgusting. He called it lawfare, didn't he? He said they were using lawfare against his son, saying that they were going to weaponize the judiciary against him. Well, isn't that pot kettle black? What have the Democrats been doing against Trump for the last couple of years? Trying to get him into court. And then all of a sudden he's made president and all these court cases are being dropped because they were, sorry to swear, they were bollocks, weren't they? They were never going to, they might have got him on a couple of tax convictions or something like that. Nothing serious. Trump was never going to go to prison. But Hunter Biden has done far worse things than what Trump has. But what Biden's really done here, it's actually quite clever. He's pardoned his son to make sure that he pardons himself. Because don't forget, Biden and the Biden family as a whole have been involved in a lot of these dodgy dealings. You remember seeing the emails, the letters, the texts. They were widely available in the public, saying 10% to the big guy and all that. Everybody saw them. And that big guy, as we now know, was Joe Biden. So by pardoning his son, it stops them investigating the Biden family, which now means he's pardoned his entire family, including himself. So what he's really done is saved his own ass. He was caught, kicked out. They're all in the same organization. Sorry, I don't know what you're talking about there. I do not like Tom Robinson, but I do respect him. He is right. And no, he is not racist. He has more black friends than white. It's actually true that, if you look at Tom Robinson when he goes out campaigning or even speaking, there are a lot of ethnic minorities. In fact, one of the most prominent campaigners he has on his side is a black woman, and she's on YouTube, and I can't think of her name now, but apparently she's got quite a fast-growing channel. And she's a mega supporter. She was outside Talk TV Towers on News UK, as they call it, on is it London Bridge where they are? And she had the megaphone, and she was screaming at the building. It's amazing how many people from different ethnic backgrounds he does attract. And you're right, he's not racist. He's just been tarred with that brush since the EDL days. And I must admit, that was something that put me off him, the EDL days, because I went to a few of these EDL marches just to watch, and the people walking down the street didn't represent me, put it that way. I didn't like them. Don't forget to smash the like. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely, Julie. Please do give it a share and subscribe, like and subscribe, etc. if you can, please, if you like what I'm saying. There's lots more to come of it every single day on this channel. Biden's so deluded he thinks his son is as innocent as a choir boy. He doesn't think he's innocent. Biden has gone, yeah. His head's gone, fine. He checked out a long time ago. But he doesn't believe his son's innocent. Come on, how can you? He's not innocent. What about the climate companies? I hate talking about climate change because I think it's absolutely disgusting what they're doing to this country in the name of climate change. And the sooner that it's stopped, the better. But are they going to stop it? Not while Miliband's there. No, they're not. And, I've said this before in the past, I think. It's not Starmer that's the dangerous one. He's an empty suit. He's a grey, boring man. doesn't deserve your respect, certainly doesn't deserve your votes, but he's not the dangerous one. Your dangerous ones are your ideologues, people that have got beliefs, people like Lammy, people like, who else? People like Miliband, people like Bridget Phillipson. These are dangerous people because they are extremely hardcore left wing, and they're extremely authoritarian with it. And if they were nationalists, you'd be calling them a certain party from the 1930s and 40s in Germany. Starmer is a David Brent. Yeah, you can actually imagine him being a bit like David Brent, can't you? In his office. Vanguard through Kiracle owns BlackRock. I will look into this stuff, by the way, BlackRock and these companies. I've never really done it properly. Lammy rumoured to be made Archbishop of Canterbury because he has a GCSE in RE. Yeah, you could imagine it with this country, couldn't you? The way things are going, it's just unbelievable. Although on the plus side, at least Welby's gone. He's done absolutely nothing for the religion that I follow, which of course is Church of England, and he's done absolutely nothing apart from destroy the attendances at churches. Absolutely disgusting. How he was allowed to stay in the job for so long is absolutely beyond me. He was a shit Crown prosecutor. He's also a shit PM. He is, yeah. And it's funny, isn't it, how a lot of cases that Starmer dealt with aren't actually available publicly. You can't find out a lot about cases that he represents. He's always coming out and saying, well, I prosecuted terrorists, etc. It's very hard to find, actually, any details of anything that he actually did. The only things I've actually found out are things that he didn't do. For example, the Jimmy Savile stuff, etc. He never seems to get involved in anything like that. Ben is meeting Nick Tenconi, he said this week. You mean Ben Habib? That would be interesting. I wonder if Ben Habib would stand for UKIP. I mean, as I said, Nick Tenconi, I'm actually quite a fan of. I couldn't see myself voting UKIP, I don't think. But I am a fan of Nick Tenconi. And Ben Habib, I'm certainly a fan of. Could be quite an explosive combination, actually. Everyone needs to get behind reform. Definitely, Si. Even if they are not perfect, like I said, it is our only hope of smashing the duopoly, and we do need to get behind reform. You're absolutely correct. Blackpool, Preston, Bolton, all of Lancashire, we need to vote in reform, vote in reform in local elections. Yes, definitely. I mean, Lancashire is pretty dominated, the county council that is pretty dominated by the Conservatives normally. Now, Labour, after winning the general election, would have thought we've finally got a chance of taking Lancashire County Council, but they don't now, do they? After the way things have gone, I'll be surprised if anybody wants to stand as a Labour candidate. If Reform UK can get some decent candidates, then definitely we should be voting them into the council. Bolton, unfortunately, doesn't fall under Lancashire now, does it? It falls under Greater Manchester, although there is a campaign, I believe, inside Bolton to try and bring it back into Lancashire, and you'd be very welcome too. Labour will be in power for 5 years. Probably, yeah. I've had this debate with Nick Buckley before on his channel. It's very hard to see how you can get rid of Starmer, isn't it? How do you get rid of a guy that's just won that majority? The only people who can get rid of him are his own party, which is possible after the May elections. So Starmer, if I had to lay money on it, won't last 5 years. The Labour Party, however, are going to be very, very difficult to get rid of. And I think, unfortunately, we are stuck with these people for 5 years. Blackpool may well vote reform into Blackpool South. Yeah, they might do, actually. Blackpool South's one of those seats that changes quite a bit. It's actually quite surprising for such a deprived area, Silvertor, how much people in Blackpool actually vote Tory. You'd be surprised. During the Blackpool, was it North by-election? Yeah, it was Blackpool North by-election. Yeah, I think it was. They had a guy called Mark, somebody standing for them in that area, the reform, and I met him. He's actually a really top guy. Does a lot of charity work in the area. He's a prominent businessman in the area, employs people, etc. Very decent bloke. But unfortunately, Labour imported a candidate who'd actually moved out of Blackpool to Manchester, been a been a councillor inside Manchester, then came back to Blackpool and pretended that he was still a local guy, and he ended up winning it. But I think Blackpool is definitely big target country for Reform UK, without a shadow of a doubt. Anywhere, basically, that's a working class population or a deprived area, Reform have got to start hitting them. Forget about London, even though, amazingly, they're actually now ahead of a lot of the parties inside London, which is amazing, really. Even in Wales, of course, Reform are sitting joint second. Incredible polling. There you go, Mark Butcher, that's it, yeah. Keep the faith, yeah, it is. Mark Butcher. He was actually, I thought it was Blackpool North he stood him. I can't remember now. No, you're right, it was South, weren't it? Because I had to get the train up there. Yeah, it was Blackpool South, yeah. He's a good guy, and I hope he does well. I'd like to meet him again, actually. I probably will do. I might even try and get him on the channel. We are screwed. Not necessarily. Keep the faith. We can get rid of these people. Don't you worry. They are on borrowed time already. Everybody needs to vote Reform. Cash is king, definitely. And cash is king, by the way. Thank you, Alex. He's tough as nails and smart. Yeah, I'm assuming you're still talking about Mark. Rupert don't even take a wage. He donates to charity. Yeah, and look at how many MPs had a go at Rupert Lowe for not taking a salary. Incredible. These people are actually slagging him off for it when it's a great thing to do. You know why? Because it makes them all look like a bunch of scrounging arseholes. Because there's a lot of people in that chamber who have plenty of money and they don't need a salary either. Rupert Lowe knows that he doesn't need a salary. He's doing it purely for the good of the country that he loves. And so he's in fact, Jacob Rees-Mogg as well, by the way, never took a salary. Although the lefties don't want to tell you that, because look at people like, what's the name, the energy secretary and that. Look at people like Rachel Reeves. They all just want to take as much out of the public purse as they possibly can. Leeds, Liverpool, Bradford, Manchester, Liverpool are unfortunately Labour strongholds. Yeah. Bradford, certainly. Forget about Bradford. But Leeds, the SDP made some council by-elections there. Made some council gains, sorry. So I'd be very, very intrigued to see how Labour get on in Leeds. We'll just see. Liverpool is obviously the biggest socialist hub in the UK. You could put a red rosette on a donkey and it would be elected. However, there are a couple of council by-elections recently where Labour are still winning, but there's big gains for the Greens going on. And any Labour leader who can't walk through the streets of Liverpool without shaking hands and people smiling at them and people praising them is in serious trouble. You've got to keep the Scousers happy. And Starmer, last time went to Liverpool, was heckled and booed. The time before that, he was sat in a cafe, people walking up to him and heckling him and booing him. And of course, Starmer, in his rather awkward way, was incapable of speaking to normal people because he doesn't know any. Can't stand Anderson, horrible little man. I quite like the Anderson. I like the way he doesn't mess around. He just says it how it is. He's kind of like how I am, to be honest with you. I like that about him. Nobody would dare say anything to Lee Anderson. He's a real guy. He says it as he thinks, and because they all want to keep their... Yeah, I've definitely. That's what I've just said about Lee Anderson. I absolutely agree with that. He is a real guy, and I like that about him. Gisborough calling UK. Any news on the Manchester Airport thugs? Absolutely none. Apart from the fact that... Reform have launched that private prosecution now. They've got one of the best private prosecutors in the country involved, and they're going after the... Well, I suppose they're going after the police as well, to be quite honest with you. You've got to, aren't you? Because they've made an absolute mess of the entire thing. Burnley till I die. Oh, dear. Well, greetings anyway. Hope you know I'm a Preston North End fan. Benny's great, but he's coming across as very bitter. He is coming across as quite bitter, actually. Yeah, you're right. But nevertheless, he's still somebody that we need on our side, I believe. And he's a very good guy, I think, and it's someone that we need to keep on side because he's going to be a big voice in the movement. Just wanted to let you know there is a bill from Northern Ireland to get rid of the border in the Irish Sea and bring back Northern Ireland into the UK. They want all MPs to support the bill, save the UK. Good. And so it should be as well. It's absolutely disgusting. I don't know who signed this deal now. Is this part of Boris's deal where if anyone doesn't know, by the way, the border from the EU obviously ends at Northern Ireland. And they've now moved that into the middle of the Irish Sea effectively. putting Northern Ireland under EU law once again, which is absolutely disgusting to my mind. And the people of Northern Ireland, who voted to leave the EU, by the way, have been absolutely betrayed by Westminster. It's absolutely disgusting. Mini-me of Austin Powers. I'll do a few more. I'll do another 5 minutes, and then I'm going to have to go and get something to eat because I've not had anything to eat yet. He'd be a Gelfling from Dark Crystal. I'm terrible at films, by the way. My film knowledge is absolutely horrendous. So if you try to quote films at me, I'm not going to be very good. Evening Shauna. The entertainer toy stores have a deal with Tesco. They handle the toy area in Tesco shops now. All right, that's probably why they're the biggest in the country then, because they've got Tesco as well. Tesco being the biggest employer, of course, in the country. Lucozade and polos all the way. Lacoste polos all the way. Sorry, I thought you said Lucozade then. I thought you were talking about the fatty foods thing. It's one of them Star Wars things he's like. As I said, sorry. R.I.P. Peter Lynch. Absolutely, by the way. The state has blood on their hands over Peter Lynch, the man who tragically was sent to prison for, let's face it, very little, and then took his own life inside his cell. Starmer reminds me of the main bad guy in that World War II movie. Can't remember the name of it. Painter. Yeah. Starmer makes John Major look interesting. Yeah, there's truth to that, isn't there? John Major was one of the most boring people. Could you imagine being trapped in a lift with John Major and Keir Starmer? Dear Lord. Keir is hiding the fact he's gay. It's pretty obvious. You're not the first person to say that. I honestly don't know. But you're not the first person to say it. He certainly looks like somebody who's hiding something. Let's put it that way. And there's big rumours going around Westminster, around the lobby, about a massive scandal that is coming to this Labour Party, but we just don't know what it is yet. But it is quite common knowledge, I'm told, around Westminster circles. We miss Habib. Is he your dad? Starmer, Strange, after tractor, pullers and pinchers, and I've got a bone in it, Boris. Covered quite a few subjects there, haven't you? Is he your dad? Do I look like Ben Habib? We haven't even got the same skin tone. I'm pale. I'm like Casper. Ben's got darker skin. I did want to mention, by the way, as well, before we go, the protest that's coming on the 11th of December. I'm considering going down there. If I can, I'll have to see what I'm doing. But the farmers have said this time it won't be a few thousand people. It's going to be massive. And they've said, forget the warnings from the police. There's going to be thousands of tractors turning up in which they're going to take over London. And God, I hope they do. This Labour government doesn't know the hornet's nest that they've managed to smack with a giant stick to annoy these farmers. And it's absolutely fantastic. Just you wait till the 11th of December. It's going to be massive. And they're going to keep blockading the ports. Scottish farmers are going to blockade their ports up north and get outside Holyrood again. This is a battle that, I mean, to be fair to the SNP, it wasn't really their fault, was it? People were just protesting outside Holyrood. But this is a battle that Westminster and Labour cannot win. How long before Sarwar, the head of the Scottish Labour Party, has to roll back on this as well? Thank you, Alex McAdam. You should do a live with Silver Fox soon and try and get on Paul Thorpe live. We need all the greatest peoples to unite. I do watch Paul Thorpe actually, and I speak to Silver Fox quite a bit. I'm actually in a WhatsApp group with Silver Fox and Craig Houston as well. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I will speak to David and I'll speak to Craig, and I'll see if we can get something. See if we can get something going. Where is Paul Thorpe? Well, last time I saw him, he was in... I don't know the guy, by the way. Last time I saw a video from him, he was in Benidorm. So maybe he's just having a good time. AB Trains, thank you. Good evening. Have we got any more? I'll do a couple more. Like I said, I was just going to do an hour. We've gone over the hour anyway. Reform need to work on the southwest and knock down the red wall. I'm not sure southwest is where they want to be targeting your wealthier areas, you know, like Dorset and Devon and places like that. I think they should be going for wealthy. Wrong. They should be going for working class seats. Go for normal people. And I think that's the way that Reform UK that's the way Reform UK should be going for working class seats, and I think they'll do far better in them. Toby Waring, Reform just seems to be the Tories' light version. I mean, they are pretty much taking Tories in each week, not really going to make a difference with both of them in a few years. I think they're very picky about which Tories they'll take. So Andrea Leadsom, for example, I would say is a sound Conservative, and she probably should have joined Reform UK before the general election campaign and stood, but she said she wanted to remain loyal to the Tories, and therefore she stood and lost and went down fighting. Fine, I can respect that. However, yes, there is definitely a fine line for them to tread, and they've got to make sure you've got to make sure that you don't take in the wrong Tories. I'd definitely go along with that. And if they're taking too many Tories and don't get fresh candidates in, then fine. Yeah, you've got to make sure you don't destroy yourselves. Someone's just saying I'm talking rubbish there somewhere, and I can't find it. I always like people dissenting voices. Who's that? Peter, they have a very long memory in Liverpool. They do have a very long memory in Liverpool. I love Scousers, by the way. I work in Liverpool quite a bit. I've got no problem with Scousers. I just think they should stop voting Labour, although I kind of get why they do. But, you know, there comes a point where surely you think maybe these people aren't doing much for us. You know, have you walked around areas like Bootle recently? Look at the poverty, degradation. Walk down some of those side streets in Walton, for example, and go and look at some of those areas. Is a Labour council really doing anything for you when you've got street after street of boarded up terrace houses people could be living in? I think the question has to be asked, really, is Liverpool right just to keep blindly voting Labour because someone's grandfather did, etc.? Who knows? Paul Thorpe back in the UK. Apparently he's back in the UK. Very good. Said he was on holiday in June for 2 weeks. He's still here. Vote Reform to finish us off. I don't think that's quite the case, Mickey. Isn't this Mickey guy a nice guy? Oh, Preston's a shithole as well. What has that got to do with anything? Preston doesn't vote Labour all the time. Well, Preston City Centre does, of course, but most of us don't. Most of us have got more common sense. Anyway, on that note, everybody, I have done over the hour. Now, like I said, this has been the first live stream in a long time, and it's definitely the first one on this new channel since I was hacked. So, as quite a few people have tuned in, I will do another one. I'll make sure I put it on YouTube so you can see it, and put it on my Twitter as well so you can all see it. And I'll let you know as soon as I'll try and do one at least once a month, and we'll see how we go on. And I'll try and get a guest on next time as well. I'll try and see if someone like Silver Fox wants to come on or somebody like that. All right, but thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We've had an average of about 140 watching all the time, which isn't bad at all. You know, it's nice to have some people to talk to. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you. In fact, before we go, I will just check the donations one more time so I can give you the final target. It's gone up again. Thank you to Jaden Thorley, who has donated another £50 to the cause, which is incredible. So the total now is £2,319. I don't know what that equates to. I might be able to find out once these people at Just Giving have taken their cut. Right, so what it is now, they take £98.75 now, and the total donated, which will go, every single penny of it will go to buying toys, is £2,319, which is amazing. So thank you all. It's been an absolute pleasure tonight. Keep watching the videos. Please subscribe. Please share the channel around, and I'll speak to you all very soon. Thank you all.